SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated was one of my most anticipated games of the year. Sad, right? Well, I was extremely excited for the game, and when I heard that they were going to be restoring content that had been cut from the original game, I thought to myself, that's a dang good addition to a remake. If Crash can do it with Stormy Ascent, why can't SpongeBob? Oh, yeah, okay, maybe not. During the development process, there is content that will inevitably be cut. Sometimes this is due to time restraints. Sometimes developers don't think it fits into the game too well. Sometimes it's due to technology limitations, and sometimes it's just an executive's decision to cut it. When creating a remake, previously cut content is, in my opinion, the best type of content to add back in for reasons that benefit both the developer and the fans. While cut content stops development at different stages in the cycle, this content will always have some sort of basis that the new developers can bounce off of. Recycled content means less time and money coming up with brand new ideas and functions. Additionally, fans of the original get excited to see this content fully realized into the game and embraced by the developers. This also essentially adds something new to the game, which are things every full-on remake should do, otherwise it would be more appropriately categorized as a remaster. When I heard that the devs for Rehydrated would be adding in cut content from the original, I was extremely excited, as Battle for Bikini Bottom was a defining game in my childhood. As with any kid in the 2000s, I spent hours on rumors of hidden content, many of which were based on concept art seen within the game itself. Fond and frustrating memories come up when thinking about Robo Squidward supposedly being accessible if you can get into the Krusty Krab's kitchen. As more information was revealed by the developers, they stated that the cut content wouldn't be re-implemented into the main story because they didn't want to break the flow of the original game. Disappointing to hear, as with remakes people generally want to see the main campaign added to, but they came right out of the gate and stated that their intention wasn't to reinvent the square, but to keep it faithful to its pants, which is something very important to remember when looking at this game objectively and without the expectation for a completely new experience. However, their reasoning made sense, and what mattered was that they were still intending on developing this cut content into realization just as an offshoot option on the main menu. However, once trailers were released of the brand new multiplayer horde mode, it became clear where this cut content had really gone. These cut stages, the infamously cut Robo Squidward, had all been delegated to multiplayer only content, and that was the menu offshoots they were referring to. This form of adding back-in cut content from the original game is Rehydrated's biggest missed opportunity. While there are many quality of life upgrades that the game could have received in terms of added features, this was the biggest missed opportunity of something that was actually added into the game. The developers kept their promise and developed the previously cut content, so why do I have such a problem with this? The issue is that it was added exclusively into the multiplayer mode. A mode new to Rehydrated, it sees two people fighting off against waves of Plankton's robots in a relatively simple beat-em-up with entirely new characters to play as. This mode did not exist in the original game, and despite what you would think about the quality of it, there are two very important things to recognize. The first is that this game, the game that it remakes, was not intended for a mode of this kind, much less a multiplayer functionality. This Horde mode is an offshoot of gameplay that was initially cultivated around a collectathon platformer. The multiplayer mode was based on a game that was not inherently made for this type of style, and therefore comes with its own problems. By limiting the cut content to the multiplayer mode, the original ideas for each bit of content were not fully realized. Because they restricted themselves to developing these ideas for a multiplayer Horde mode, it forced them to rethink how each idea was implemented. Everything put into the multiplayer mode had to be sculpted around that sort of gameplay, and it made it so that the content didn't actually develop into its original functionality. Now, I'm not saying changing the original idea is inherently a bad thing. Especially if you're revisiting content that was originally axed, it's great to try and reformat it so that it can properly be implemented into the game. The problem in Rehydrated, though, is that the revisited ideas were extremely lackluster inclusions. The cut content they promised would be added back in are basically the absolute bare bones of what could have been done, with everything having basically zero functionality. Robo Squidward certainly exists, but you don't actually fight him. He just acts as an enemy spawner, occasionally destroying a tentacle by stepping on a large button. Patrick's original dream filled with ice cream and onions? The assets exist, but are simply just slapped in there as an island in the map. Glove World? I guess these Goo Lagoon assets are supposed to be the cut Glove World? I'm under the assumption that, ironically, the team was not given enough time and resources to properly implement this cut content into the game, and the multiplayer mode was their last-ditch effort on staying true to their promise. The incredibly short cutscene at the beginning of the mode looks like it implies an actual boss fight, since the players are not only loaded into a completely separate map that they never return to, but that the map looks to be modeled after Robo Squidward's original boss room in the concept art. I'd like to believe the team had full intentions to restore this content to its complete potential, hence the specific wording of Robo Squidward boss fight, but simply weren't given the time or money to. Had this content been added in like most people expected, instead of being lumped into the barren multiplayer mode, then this absolutely would have been a top-tier remake, at least in my nostalgia-ridden opinion. Who knows, with DLC being common practice nowadays, maybe we will end up seeing this content restored to its former glory somewhere down the line. Updatable games let developers make good on their promises and fulfilling player expectations. But maybe I'm being too optimistic here. 7.5 out of 10, not enough water. Special thanks to my delirious death merchants Damp Volcano and GTY200, because you certainly have to be delirious to be my highest supporters. Also thanks to Pugs501 and As Is Light.